So rarely is it that we make a video talking about stuff that will not happen. But today, what I wanted to do was go over onto Detroit Hockey Now because there was a recent piece published by Bob Duff on the 18th that goes over the Red Wings and specific trade ideas that sometimes get brought up in regards to the Wings and their trade options. He's got 3 names, 3 interesting ideas, and of course, they all have the same conclusion here, so I thought it'd be fun to go back and just take a look at some of these thoughts and whether or not they actually do make sense for the Red Wings to go out there and target. So, I'll leave a link in the description why the Wings won't be making these deals if you want to see more of these thoughts, but opening up the entire discussion as to Red Wings' possible trade targets, you have yourselves Marty Necas, who is written about here by Duff as being too high for the Red Wings. Okay, maybe not high as in like, you know, this ain't Kirby Doc going out there and getting asked by Steve Yzerman how much he smokes marijuana, but Marty Necas is the one player most commonly linked to Detroit. However, based on what the Hurricanes are seeking to get in return for the 2-time 20 goal scorer, it's going to be a bit too high of a price for the Wings. And that is the opening paragraph. There's a little bit more written about here if you wanted to explore that. It's a pretty common thought, I would say, that Marty Necas is one of these guys that the Red Wings are targeting, but I think I agree here with Duff that when it comes to Necas, we've been reporting so many teams. So many names going out there and asking about this guy and targeting this guy. I think Elliot Friedman said it was like 10 plus, or was that Sarah Bailey? I don't know, they all get mixed up in my head after a few days, but either way, when it comes to the Predators, the Canucks, the Canadiens, the Red Wings, the Flyers, whomever else, a lot of these teams are going out there and asking about Marty Necas, so it would make sense if the price for him just gets a little bit too high up there for Stevie Y to feel comfortable in making some sort of a move. The Red Wings are going to have to give up a lot of stuff. Any team is going to have to give up a lot of stuff because the Carolina Hurricanes think so highly of Marty Necas that it seems more so like the trade idea isn't really them pushing him out, it's more so Necas himself saying, hey, I'm not going to re-sign here because you guys aren't going to give me the money that I want, nor are you going to give me the ice time that I want. So it seems more so like an amicable parting of the ways rather than Carolina pushing this guy out. Therefore, they have all the rights in the world to go out there and demand as high of a price as they want. So for Carolina, they're probably going to go out there and ask for a ton for Marty Necas. Steve Yzerman, maybe not the best position to go out there and give the most in return. This article says that there's only one name that the Carolina Hurricanes would probably want, and it's Lucas Raymond. But no, the Red Wings are not going to trade Lucas Raymond. Now, let's go out there and talk about the second name listed on this article as to whether or not the Red Wings could target him. We had talked about him earlier in today's show. It was a really good video, I thought, or a really good thought, I would say. If he goes to Montreal with the trade that we had talked about 2 hours ago, I'd like that. But Patrik Laine is written out by the writer here. He has told the Blue Jackets his preference would be to get a fresh start elsewhere. The 6'5" winger is an intriguing player who had once scored 40 goals for the Jets. However, he hasn't scored 30 in a season in 6 years. He's gone from 28 goals to 22, down to 6 over the past 3 seasons. He's also currently in the NHL's Players Assistance Program, and we know that Yzerman didn't exactly welcome Jakub Vrana back with open arms following his stint in that program, too. Of the 3 players on this list, Patrik Laine would probably cost the lowest price, but considering his struggles, would it be a price worth paying? And this is one of those things where you talk about the rehabilitation that the Montreal Canadiens could have, for example. This is why I'm such a big fan of the idea of Laine over to Montreal. With St. Louis at the helm, a whole bunch of other younger guys, and just an environment in Montreal where everybody seems to be sort of accepting the fact that this team is slowly going to get better. It seems more so like an opportunity for Laine to expand on what he's got, rather than in Detroit. The team was already so close to the playoffs. They have these middle to aging veterans that almost in a way speed up the rebuild, and when it comes to Steve Yzerman, it feels like to me there's a sort of player that he targets and a player that he wants to get in these acquisitions. If you're not that player already, it doesn't really seem like a fit for Stevie Y. Like, I think the Canadiens are more so in a position to take players who need a little bit of assistance and give them that assistance. Steve Yzerman, it seems to me like the way he builds his teams, he doesn't want to go through that, oh, we need to rehabilitate you phase. He wants to get guys who have that to go right away. It's locked and loaded. Patrik Laine's got 40 goals ready in his back pocket. He's ready to whip them out and show to everybody that his stint in Columbus was just the beta Laine. Alpha's coming soon. Like, it doesn't really seem like a sort of fit that the Red Wings would be willing to explore. And of course, there also is higher expectations, I would say, with Detroit because the team was so close to making the playoffs this previous season. I think the expectation would be if you want to improve, everybody's got to step up their game and make it this year. Is Patrik Laine ready for that kind of environment? Honestly, I would argue no. So heading over to Montreal, that's great. There's a lot more room and leeway, and I'd say patience for him to become better. Detroit, not really so much. Plus, I don't want to say that Jakub Vrana's instance is going to change the way Steve Yzerman would view a Patrik Laine acquisition at all, but it is something that's noteworthy enough to acknowledge that, hey, the last time the Wings had a guy in the NHLPA's assistance program, it was not great. And there was a lot of enmity there, it seemed like, from both sides. The Wings lost patience with Vrana, and Vrana was fed up with the Wings. It was pretty bad all over, not gonna lie. So, if you want to let that influence your decision-making on whether or not the Wings would be interested in a Laine acquisition, then okay, be my guest, but at the end of the day, I don't think Laine to Detroit makes too much sense either. Of course, it sounds great on paper if he's good. Like, if he actually goes out there and scores 30 goals next year, and he makes it look easy, then okay, fine. Any team that gets him will be happy to have him, but the fact is it's not guaranteed. And it is a risk that any team would need to think about if they really wanted to make this happen. I'd say Montreal probably has more capacity to deal with that than Detroit does, but that's of course just my opinion. Now let's go out there and talk about the third name on Detroit Hockey Now's article. It's Mitch Marner. According to the most recent reports, GM Brad Treliving is more interested in getting Marner's name inked up to a contract extension rather than sending him elsewhere. Marner is 1 season away from becoming a UFA, and it'd be difficult to get full value for him if the Leafs were to try and trade him once the season gets underway. If Toronto were to opt to move him out, Marner does have a full no-movement clause. He's in control of where he goes. Is that list of destinations going to include Detroit? It's unlikely. So, I honestly don't know where this Marner thing came from. Did we make a video about that? I'm not too sure. But either way, the idea of Mitch Marner heading over to some other team, honestly, it's looking a lot more slim. With every passing week, it seems, there are a lot of other insiders saying that, hey, Brad Treliving, the Leafs, they want to sign this guy. They want to bring him back. And it's like, okay, well, what happened to all the conversations in the spring when they lost in Game 7 to Boston again? Like, what happened then? Everybody was saying blow up the core. They're going to blow up the core. Tavares is going to leave. Marner's going to get traded. Everything's going to blow up to smithereens. But now it's like, nah, they're going to run it back. And the reason they're running it back is because Craig Berube is here now. Woohoo, yay, whoop-de-doo, we got a new coach. And everything's going to fix itself up, right? So we don't need to trade him anymore. It's so interesting how the Toronto Maple Leafs market and the media that reports on this kind of stuff changed their scoops so quickly. I didn't realize that Craig Berube had this super glue adhesive sticking power to make a Toronto Maple Leafs team that was very clearly falling apart build itself back up together again. I guess we got another year to find out, right? So, if Mitch Marner ends up re-signing and he stays with the Toronto Maple Leafs, then of course it means that no team is going to go out there and trade for him. Either way, I think Steve Yzerman would probably be out to lunch if he were to try to get a guy like Marner, because you kind of don't need a guy like Marner if you're Detroit. You already have Raymond. I'm not saying that Raymond is a 90-point consistent guy who's an all-star caliber player just yet, but Raymond is kind of on his way to becoming that. Very well defensively minded two-way winger, right-handed, can score when he needs to, is a super great playmaker, and I'd say the one thing that Raymond has over Marner, at least at this point in their careers, is that Raymond is ultra clutch. The guy was so good at producing points towards the end of the year and scoring the biggest and most important goals of his entire career. Mitch Marner scores OHL-like goals once every few games in the Stanley Cup Playoffs and then chucks the puck over the glass. He is not the same player, and I'd say that Raymond is more of a clutch add to a hockey team, even though Mitch Marner may have more points than Raymond every single year, because of course he's a lot older and he's more developed in his progression. It's not difficult to understand. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these three guys, Necas, Laine, and Marner, and your thoughts about the idea of the Detroit Red Wings not trading for them. If you instead disagree and you would like to see a Marner go over to Detroit, or you would like to see Patrik Laine get sent over to Motown, hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. The floor is yours in regards to these trades. What are your opinions on who should stay, who should go, and where exactly the Wings could go to if they wanted to get these trades done? Article will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read that yourself, but I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.